welcome to this week's episode of the LGBTQ Voice. And my name is Traci Welch, and we have a co-host tonight, Andy Pollack. He's been on our show before, twice. This is our third time, but he'll be hosting tonight. We're very fortunate to have Bethany Foto. Thank you for coming, local organizer, and she actually works at the Human Relations Commission.
She's a member of the commission.
The member of the commission, thank you. And we have I'm going to say it wrong, Marcy Pina Christian from the Human Relations Commission. We also have Mona Silva, and she's a community activist. She's lived in Fairhaven, New Bedford, all her life. So we wanted to kind of have people talk about civil rights movement, what's going on in our community, and what it was like for you guys back in the day. So if you guys want to take a few minutes and just talk about yourself and what you've done so far in the community, and we can just take a step through.
Okay, well, so far in the community, I first got involved when I ran for office, and then after that, I was asked to join the Human Relations Commission, and I've also organized a local women's march and the Families Belong Together rally. So I just try to stay involved in the community and do what I can.
Great. Marcy?
Well, I work for the Department of Community Services, so in that capacity, I wear several hats. But in terms of the community, I've been chairing the city's Martin Luther King program for the past 11 years.
Awesome.
And in that capacity, within that program, it's really wonderful because you see the whole community come together. It's interfaith, it's all ages, and I think it's important that we have more opportunity in the community to come together and just in the spirit of unity and brotherhood.
Oh, definitely. A month or so ago, you came to our youth center and had a trans individual that needed some assistance.
Yes.
So you knew where to go. So, I mean, having these, friends of friends and knowing where to go in our community and keeping everybody involved, it was nice to be able to try and help an individual in our community that you guys were doing. So thank you for that, for sure. And Mona?
Well, I started off as a community organizer, and then in 1995, I had the great opportunity to serve constituents in New Bedford as a Ward 4 City Councilor, which was an honor. From there, I went to the school committee, and I also served on the school committee. So we get a cross-section of the school committee, where basically we were dealing with the youth and programs for children in New Bedford throughout the community. And on the other end, as the city councilor, it was more governmental issues. So it was a wide variety of meeting people and addressing different issues and bringing people together with regard to the issues that they were concerned with.
And Andy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as far as community organizing, I worked a lot. I was co-chair with Liz DiCarlo on the Marriage Equality Commission back in 2003 to 2006. And I also work as executive director of the local village in Dartmouth. So it's a place to help, organization that helps people age in place.
Great. So we want to do kind of civil rights movement, talk about what's going on in our community today. So what do you feel is the most common civil rights issue of what's going on around us?
I mean, I would say for me, there isn't one most common one. When you say civil rights, you mean human rights, and each human has different problems and that they need help with, and there are many vulnerable populations. So for me, there isn't one major one.
I think the criminal justice system. I think disparities in sentencing, the over-incarceration, I think that still remains a priority in civil rights issues.
Mona, do you have an input?
Yes, I do. What I was going to say is I think I agree with both Marcy and Beth that all of these issues that relate to human rights are civil rights.
Yep.
So we have the women's movement, we have voter registration, we have the, now, especially in this time in our democracy, I think that human rights, civil rights, are more prevalent for people to be talking about and to get behind, because actually, we're talking about freedom. And civil rights is a birth of freedoms for everyone, for all of us, for all people. Women, people who need to vote, people of color, gay gay people of color, and everybody in the United States. And I think that as I said before, and especially with today's environment, political environment, it is so important that we discuss these things. And one of the things about today's environment and political venue is the fact that a lot of these problems are coming to the front. They are being discussed more because of the political climate that we're in. And I find it, I find it appealing that we are able to bring these problems and these issues to the front and have a debate and a civil debate based on that. I mean, I was home all day today watching the hearings. So this is a crucial time in our history, and especially as it pertains to civil rights for all.
So today obviously was our voting day, and I usually see you sometimes at where I live, so I thought it was funny I didn't see you this morning. I can't wait to see the number of people that actually turned out to vote today, because when those numbers come in, it always surprises me of the people who don't vote.
Well, in New Bedford, we have an especially low voter turnout as well, especially in primaries, so.
And I had a hard time over at Parker School because they were doing the road construction.
Yeah.
So I had to park like in Connecticut and then just walk up. I was able
So
to,
you really had to want to vote.
correct. And the sidewalks weren't done, so you had to kind of, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what happens, and I've been talking to some people, just in a generic conversation regarding voting, regarding civil rights, and how this political time really is going to have an impact. And, you know, one of the things that I say to people is, listen, you know, it's not the presidential election this year. This year, it is November of 2018 that is going to be the most crucial election of our time.
Oh yeah, well what I did is I actually reached out to people in our community to see who might want to come on our show as a guest. So tomorrow, I know I always point over this way, I got Kevin over here, we went through that. I'm going to be emailing and calling people tomorrow to see when they can come on the show in, you know, in October. Because we are, see, November, 6th, God help me, November 6th, is our time to vote. So I want to make sure that we get the pros and cons, Republican, Democrats, and again, that word civil. You know, come here and talk and tell me why you think I shouldn't deserve my rights. I don't tell you why I think I should.
And I think, you know, as an HRC member, our goal is to promote understanding and respect. And I think especially in the age of social media, we really start to like ad hominem, you know, attacks, and it's like, well, you're stupid and you're dumb, and it's like you can't have a conversation and an open dialect when you do things like that, and you see it on either side of the spectrum, you know, and I really think that we could learn a lot more from each other if we just sat down and listened to what someone had to say, even if they don't have our views necessarily.
But do you think that this current administration is allowing some forces in the country that have been squashed down to bubble up and have freedom of speech? For instance, I see a guy driving around with a Confederate flag on the back of his truck.
I think it's interesting, but honestly, I think it's a good thing. You know, these kind of like white nationalists and things like that, they were hiding in the woodwork, and we just thought they didn't exist. And now I think it's very important that they're out in the open, so it's not this, you know, rural club in Alabama. It's here, it's in New England, it's in Democratic state, you know, it's here, and we see it. So now it's not this like folklore. It's here, you see it, and you can actually do something about it because you know it exists. I think it's almost a good thing.
Well, we had the person at the mall that showed up on Facebook. The Facebook feed having the Nazi symbol, and it went all over Facebook, all over social media. Why are you here? What's going on? And somebody ended up texting her, and all that information that person actually shared on Facebook. So it kind of went out and about that, right next door, you know? So I think, am I safe being a gay woman? Are we safe being a woman of color?
Because usually people like that, it includes all, you know, types of, the hate is usually for gay and minority and, you know, whatever it is. Because there was
vulnerable populations.
All vulnerable populations,
Let's see. So why do you think we're constantly dealing with issues? You know, why? I mean, you would figure that we could end one and start, you know, work on something else, but they could still continue. What is it you feel that we're still suffering every day, or our challenges every day?
Because leadership is always changing. And as we see, you know, you look at our country look at Washington, and we've had a change in leadership. And with a change in leadership, new judges are appointed, new laws are enacted, and so I think that civil rights is something that, as long as you're alive, we will always be working towards civil rights advocacy. I don't think there will ever be a time when you can say, we've overcome.
So offline, guys, we're kind of asking questions ahead of time. You guys are involved in the community. I mean, why do you feel some people just don't get involved?
I mean, I can say for me, because I wasn't always involved in New Bedford, you know, we live in a certain socioeconomic place, and, you know, I was so stressed out and trying to live that it wasn't something that I was interested in. But then I realized that these are all issues that affect me and possibly my living situation. I need to get involved. But I think if you grow up and, you know, you're struggling and things like that, those are secondary to your primary needs.
Civil rights activists are on the front line. They're the people who say the things that other people think but will not say. They're the ones that are out there, you know, advocating for change, marching, and everyone doesn't have that within them to do that. Some people support from afar, and, you know, they're happy to see that. They're happy with the changes that are made, but everybody doesn't have that within them. And some people, you don't always have to be on the front lines. Some people are making change within our community through different measures. But I think the important thing is that you are knowledgeable to what is going on, that you're involved in some way, because I think we all have the capacity to make a difference through the work that we do, through the organizations that we are a part of. And I think the important thing is that you are doing something to make your community, your city better.
So when Mona and I met for lunch a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about there's just so many causes out there right now that people are invested in so many things. What is the right choice for them may not always be the positive choice for the community, but it's a small change. And I think every time we can make that small change, it'll add up to the bigger change in the end. Mona?
No, and I agree with Marcy that there are people who will support from afar, but they're not your community activists. They're not the community organizer. And then you have the other fraction who says, well, not me, I'm not going to make a difference. Nobody cares what I think. And I think that people need to recognize the fact that everybody's opinion, and definitely everybody's vote, does count.
I used to think that.
Yes, and you know, when I say that to people, you know, they look at me and say, listen, take it from somebody who won an election by 7 votes. Yeah. I know everybody's vote counts. And I think that if people, and I think Marcy mentioned the word educated too. This is the other thing that I think, and I don't think it's so much here where we are, but I think that across the country, and Gary brought up that the current administration, and I think in those areas where it seems to be prevalent, when we mention the nationalists, where they've always been out. Yeah. They've always been out where they're at. We just have not seen them. We are aware that they exist, but not in our neighborhoods, not in our backyards, not as outwardly as they do back in the other states. Yeah. And now, you're absolutely right, Gary, now we have an administration. Andy.
I've been called worse.
Right. Now that we have an administration, you're absolutely right, who is promoting this nationalism and this division within the communities and whatnot because of their beliefs, which is looking at destroying what has become a way of life since 1964, especially when, you know, the new amendments were made to the civil rights movement. So there's a concern out there, and I think that if we educate, I don't mean educate, inform. I think if people are more informed, then they understand that we are all a big part of this. You know, I don't want to wake up tomorrow speaking Russian.
Right.
And when people say, they talk about the division, and they talk about partisanship rather, and they talk about, well, you Republicans and you Democrats. This is not the time for us to be speaking in terms of party lines.
Right.
We are all Americans. The fight is not between you and I.
Right.
The fight is about what's right.
Amen.
And that's what we need to come together on.
Can I ask, both of you, I remember, Mona, when you stood up for gay rights at marriage equality, which made a huge difference. You were in a place and you did it, and it spoke to the city, and you have an amazing history. And Marcy, you have an amazing history as well with your mom, Eloise Pina, who is just an icon in the city of just a gracious, wonderful woman that was beloved by everyone that met her. So can you speak a little bit about the history that you guys have experienced in the city and maybe some of the progression that we've had over the years? I know that New Bedford has had a good history in some respects. I mean, it was a biracial city. It was a free city for a lot of African Americans coming north. But we also had times of trial and times, especially in the 60s, when things were not good and there were a lot of racial tensions. And people stood up and made peace. I mean, your mom was one of them. Can you speak a little bit about the journeys that you guys have taken?
Well, when I think of the city and when I think of growing up here and what I've experienced here, I still say today, even with the upheaval that we had in the 60s, this is a great city, and it still is a great city. And during that time, yes, there was rioting, there was the Black Panther Party had a presence, but those organizations came to be, and that type of activity came about because of inequality in housing, in jobs, and it was a way across the country that people were organizing for change. But the good thing about that time were the leadership that emerged that, for example, in the West End where I lived and grew up as a young girl, when the rioting occurred, there was a store, Parashini's, which was a white-owned variety store. And Parashini's was good to all of the working families in the West End. If they came in there, if the children came in there to get groceries, if they didn't have money for their groceries, everyone had credit. And there was sort of an honor system. And, he would always give children, I remember a jar of dill pickles, those really big, fat pickles. He would give it to you for free. But when the riots occurred, some of the looters, and we've seen this across the country with looting, they just will go into their community and it's a free-for-all.
Even up until recently, that's, yeah.
Yes, and so Parashini's, his windows were broken, things were stolen, and many of the older members, my mother being one of them, but many of the older folks of the community were they were so distraught over that. And they reprimanded, the young folks in the community that they knew were doing some of this and spoke in support of, why are you young people doing this in your own communities where you have to go to shop and where people are helping you out? Yes, we did go through that pivotal time in the 60s, but through that, there were the NAACP had a presence, Job Corps, On Board. There were a lot of organizations that emerged that helped, yes, the village, as Ramona is saying, that helped folks of color to get jobs, to get housing, to get employment. And so I think that there has always been that presence through churches. Our churches, there was a time when they were more active within the community and had a strong presence, not just for worship, but just to inform the community about, you know, what was going on. They had social programs. So I think that this has always been a good city. We've had our problems like any other city, but I think that in times of upheaval, I think this community comes together. And I think that is our greatest strength. Yeah. And I think that is what will always make this a good city to live in, because it's a city where there are folks that generally do care about each other, and we can cross those barriers and those color lines, and we can come together and work together.
Well, I didn't have I didn't have firsthand experience of the riots and what Marcy was talking about, but I certainly have heard from people who were involved and some of those leaders who have talked about the different experiences. And there were tragic events that happened during that time here in our city. But I would definitely have to agree that as a community, New Bedford is a great place to live. It is. And as Marcy said, you're absolutely right. When the time comes, people usually come together for a common cause that affects all of its community. And I think that that's very important. And I'm not so sure that that happens in all other communities across the state. I don't know. I only know about New Bedford. I grew up in Fairhaven, and I was younger, teenager. But living here in the city, I see so much positiveness. You know, some people will say, oh, I'm in Bedford, and I'm like, you know what, you really don't have to look that far to see the good within the people here. And I think part of that is because of the diversity of this community. It is, it's a very diverse community. And I think that we, as we have, I don't want to say age, but through experience, I think that we have learned to live together, respect each other, which is very important. And Andy, when you referred to that, the quote that I had said at the one of the things that I do not like, when someone says to me, well, you know, we need to tolerate. And I think that is the exact quote that I said that night. And you know what? And I said this right in the County Academy audience. And I said, who the hell are we to tolerate anybody? We're supposed to respect each other. Okay? I tolerate the brother. I tolerate the humidity. But when it comes to individuals and human beings, we respect one another. And we can agree to disagree. Oh, definitely. But we can do that in a civil manner. And I think that that's where we have come here, you know, from that era and that experience of all of that turmoil and upheaval. I think we've come a long way. We absolutely have.
So I'm just going to take a quick message to these guys. So if you guys want to support the show, you can email leo@newbedfordguide.com. We're looking for sponsorship, commercial space, things like that, 30-second, 1-minute ads. If you'd like to get a hold of me, Traci, Traci, at the SCLGBTQnetwork.org, and AJ will put that up. AJ, I don't have Mariah here tonight. Is there any comments?
Quite a few, actually.
Please.
Son said hi.
Hi.
Keith said hi. Tony Whedon said hi, Andy.
Oh, sorry.
Mike Johansson asked, what does Q stand for in the title?
Q is queer and questioning.
And somebody replied to his with that comment, too.
What was it?
Somebody actually replied to mine with that answer.
Yeah, Q for us is queer and questioning. There's just so many youth and people out there that question their sexuality, their gender identity. So yeah, queer just doesn't mean queer, it's actually queer and questioning.
I love when people ask, you know, rather than say, I think people are too afraid to just say, hey, what does this mean, or how does it, you know?
Well, it's funny, in our community, we actually have the LGBTQ. In other communities, there's not even the Q's yet. It's still the T. I went to NERP, which is New England Regional Prides. It was actually hosted in Rhode Island this year. And they want to add Q plus more letters, and I'm like, please no, please.
So many letters.
We haven't even got to what a T stands for yet. We were working on, we're working on sexual identity, we're working on gender identity, we're working on all kinds of stuff. I can't add more on. We got the Q.
Well, it'll get so long that you can just you'll be
Yeah.
able to, iron it down from there.
When Mona, you were talking about, we're so diverse, and sometimes I wonder if that's a hindrance for our community. I know you looked at me like, no, just let me finish the thing. So we talk about certain venues or certain groups of organizations, but in our gay community, and I'll say that we've segregated ourselves from ourselves. Because now I'm Latino gay, I'm black gay, I'm Asian gay, I'm a twink, I'm a beer, I'm a dyke, I'm a lipstick lesbian, and next thing you know, we're all separated ourselves.
Right.
So that's what I meant by that. And it's just it's overwhelming that when you go to look for people in our community, they're doing, I'm a twink, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. So in our own gay community, we've segregated ourselves from ourselves, trying to get go ahead, Mona.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is I think that what happens when you begin to do that, two things happen. First of all, we allow other people to use the same terms that they've always wanted to use that are more derogative than those we've adopted for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a problem when you begin to segregate within your own groups, unless you're doing it in an isolated forum. Well, it's up to you. But I think on a public forum, I think that it just brings more problems to whatever it is you're looking, whatever it is you're looking to do.
Yep.
So,
It's tough.
I'm sure it is.
Somebody asked me, like in our youth group, we always go around and we say what our name
Right.
is, what our role is, what our orientation or sexual, I just say I'm gay.
Well, you know what, and when you said that, there were two words. I'm sure there's a lot more.
Yep.
But for the sake of this conversation
Oh, yeah.
right now, there are two words that I really, it's like seething when I hear them. One is dyke, one is nigger.
Yeah.
I hate those two words.
Yeah.
But when you as a group address yourself
Yeah.
by that term
Yeah.
and that identification, then you cannot expect someone else not to do the same.
Yeah, we
And
talked
you
about this
cannot
before.
chastise them for doing that. So, be careful of what you say and what you speak, because it will come back to haunt you. And you cannot fight for civil rights in all aspects on one hand, and then chastise those who come and try to take it away or attack it on the other. You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
have it both ways.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. We talked a lot offline, about what our kids are learning today, and they're not gonna be, hopefully, what we want. Mona and I went out for lunch, I'll tell the story real quick.
Yes.
And we were talking about where our youth are, the ages 14, 24. I was not in the gay community, I can't find them anywhere. Hello, where are you? Cape Verdean Parade, I don't see them. I see the younger kids with their moms and dads, and then I see, the 40s and 50s and the 80s and all the way around the parade route. And Mona and I talked about, where are these kids? What's going on? And where I just lost my thought. Andy, help me out. Oh, we were at lunch. Thank you. Sorry, audience. And as we're talking about what's going on with our kids, there's two women came in, maybe 5 little kids, eating. We're at Palace Pizza. Shout out to you guys on County Street.
So
Awesome
good.
lunch. Shout out. And the kids were screaming about, I want chips. The mother's like, well, I just bought the chips. You guys got to share the chips. And the kid's screaming. Finally, the mom gets out, and I think Mona and I thought maybe they want to go out and maybe swaddle them a little bit and then bring them back in. Oh, no, she went over and grabbed a bag of chips just to appease them. And I said, what are these kids learning? That every time I act up, I'm going to get rewarded for it. So, we got these circles of stuff. I know this is a civil rights show, sorry.
Well, I think it goes back to
Yeah.
that, though, because you said, why do you think there's so civil rights issues? And a lot of that is how people are brought up. That is a circle. What you learn is what you teach your children.
Yeah.
And unless you make it a point to unlearn negative things, you're going to reteach that to your children.
Yeah.
So.
And God love, the generation that's coming up, have you noticed, at least around the gay issue, it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue for the younger kids.
Right.
And I think it's, again, because we are finally having these conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we are all part of the same humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, we should talk about each and every one of us.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of it, is that, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And you know what? We should be.
Yeah.
As I said, because we are all different. We were all part of the same human human frames,
Yeah.
so to speak, so.
And we need to ask questions, just like I have a niece in high school, you know, and she was dating somebody and their pronoun was they. And
Yeah.
at that point, I had
Yeah.
no, but you know, at first you feel kind of like, should I know what this is? Or, you know, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable or like, but just asking, and I think in any aspect of like just asking, as long as you have no ill will or intention, people will explain it to you, I found.
Well, when we were at our youth center, and somebody said, the first time we go around, they said, I'm pan-romantic, I'm pansexual, and I'm like this, like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Right.
I said, yeah, I'm gay, bisexual, transgender, lesbian. What are all these new words coming out? So each time we have stuff, we actually stop the group and say, tell me why,
You
know.
identify it.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think sometimes that's why there might be division within groups, so like the Latina and the, because there's no open dialogue, so you kind of feel, like I know not being in the gay community, not being gay myself, I feel weird asking. So maybe in these subdivisions of groups that are separated, they feel weird asking or saying, this makes me feel weird or not accepted, you know? I think it's open dialogue. I think open dialogue fixes so many things.
Well, one of the things, you know, I'm privy to have like 8 Facebook pages I can post on, we talked about that earlier, and Dr. Roche has the New Bedford Wellness,
Yeah.
things like that, And next week's show, we actually have a person who's supposedly the only person cured of HIV, will be on our show next
Lord.
week.
Phenomenal, yeah.
So I actually posted that on the Bedford Wellness page, and he actually shared it on that. Not everybody shares our information, but same thing out there in TV land. You know, if you have an event or something, post on someone's page and say, listen, can you share it out and about and let people know what's going on in and around your community? I was at a function a couple weeks ago, and I met Mona's sister-in-law. You know what I mean? Because I was talking to her, it's grandparents raising their grandkids.
Right.
You know, we talk about certain things, and again, so where's that generation gap? I always say 14 to 24, but I think it's a little bit more than that. You know, our grandparents right now are raising so many of their grandkids right now. You have a question?
Oh, I was going to
There you
ask,
go.
so what can we do? What can we do to instigate conversation? What can we do to move civil rights forward? Because I know for myself, I don't feel like it's moving. I feel in some ways it's moving forward, and in other ways it's 3 steps forward and 2 steps back.
In my opinion, you have to take what you think is moving back and address it, and then figure out how we can move it forward in a more positive way. Again, with open dialogue, communication, what groups can help me with this? Has anybody else noticed? Because sometimes people don't notice that, you know, these small things are turning into bigger problems in society. So, you know, I definitely think that you have to recognize it and then figure out a plan as to how to attack.
We have a mediation program at, within the Department of Community Services, the New Bedford Face-to-Face Mediation Program, and we have conducted community dialogues, the facilitated dialogue circle, and it's a very effective way of getting people comfortable with each other in a setting, and getting them to open up about things that they want to talk about, guided by the trained mediators.
So along with that, Ramona, I'll get back to you in a second. What else so somebody says, well, what is the Human Relations Commission? What else do you guys do there? So you name a few?
Well, by our mission, our mission is to encourage respect and understanding among citizens, and to assure equal opportunity based on one's protected classes.
So,
And also to make sure that the Mass general laws around discrimination are being upheld. We can take complaints from residents if they feel that they've been discriminated. If people of the community have some issue that they want us to get behind and support, they can bring that to the commission by just calling my office, 508-979-1464, or stopping in room 113. And the commission meets
every third Wednesday of the month, and it's an open meeting, so it's public. You can come in. We just had a great one dealing with the ending of the barbecue in the park. There's so many people who showed up, and you know, I would love for more people who felt they're having a problem in the city to come by and talk to us, because even if it isn't under our purview, we can point you in the right direction.
So what time is that on a Wednesday?
On a Wednesday, we meet at 6. And
the third Wednesday of the month.
The third Wednesday of the month, and we're there It depends on the meeting time, but up until 8.
Yeah. And during the week, are you guys there 8 to 4, 9 to 5, if somebody wants to stop in?
I provide administrative support to the commission, so I am the paid staff for the commission. I am there daily from 8:30 to 5:30.
And she does a great job. Great job.
So I apologize, Andy, you want to finish with Mona? Sorry, I wanted to kind of,
No. Just the question I asked about what we can do.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So one of the things that I was thinking, and it's funny that you mentioned that, Andy, one of the things that I was talking about, especially now, and I know I keep going back to it, but this, I mean, it's real. This political climate that we're in. I mean, this is about our civil rights.
It's
Nazis were marching through University of Virginia saying Jews will not replace us.
Right,
We never thought that would ever happen in the
No, I
United
never
States.
thought I'd see that in my
right,
lifetime.
Charlottesville,
Here we are.
exactly. We never thought this would happen, but it's real. It is here. It is staring us, and in some places it is slapping us in the face. So, having said that, one of the things that I've been doing is I do a lot of writing, and when I'm writing, and I said, listen, we need, and Beth said this, that, you know, we need to let people know. First of all, we need to define and inform people about what civil rights are.
Good point.
People, you know, when you talk about civil rights, people really don't know what it is. They know what you're talking about. They have an idea.
They've heard
but
the word.
They've heard the word, but they don't know what it is. My thing is that getting people together. Listen, I'll go to any meeting. You'll go to any meeting. Anyone else here will go to a meeting. Not all people are going to do that. You said that earlier. That some of us, you know, some of us are community organizers. Some of us are community activists. Other people.
we'll get the raffles for the prizes and you'll buy the tickets.
Exactly. And having said that, what I would like to see, actually, especially especially with this November election coming out, is, you know, let's write stuff. Let's write stuff. You know, pamphlets defining what it means, what civil rights are, how what's happening now does impact all of us. And sometimes getting those forms out, flyers, however we decide to do it, would be a big help in as far as informing not just the voters, but our community at large. So, you know, that's one of the ways that I thought that something like that could happen, was that if we started started writing pamphlets or whatever and putting them together and distributing them out through the city, through our different venues that we have with all the organizations and all the groups. Imagine how many people that we could reach that way.
And information is power.
Information is power. So this is what we're talking about, informational packet. It could be one sheet. I mean, we don't want to, overburden someone, and so it.
Yeah, because somebody doesn't read a book, but they'll stop for a pamphlet.
Right. They'll start.
I know, I don't want to read a
one
book.
sheet, and I think sometimes that may be the best way to go, is the most simple way. So, as I said, a one-sheet pamphlet that says, the civil rights, these are what they are, blah, and something that's very informative.
And I think even if you're not an organizer or an activist, just showing up at an event, adding, so when people see it, they're like, okay, there are a lot of people who agree or think that some of the events I organized, I was taken aback by the amount of people that showed up, because you look at what people say online and you're like, oh, maybe it's not going to be that great. And then so many people show up, and I think that also might be why some people don't get involved, because they think it won't make a difference. So to see that impact.
So you mentioned, because I just remember that you were at the Women's March.
I was in Oregon.
Look at what that Women's March, the attendance at that Women's March was phenomenal.
That's what I was talking about.
I
was one of the organizers, and when I went, the forum was great, and I was happy with that. But when we walked outside, before my breath was taken away, and Michael Bonner from the Standard Times was there, and he's like, I just see your face, can I just talk to you for a second about what you're feeling? And you can't grasp that there are this many people that believe what you believe, that feel how you feel. And I encourage anybody, no matter what, if you really feel, passionate about something that needs to get done, you should. And even if you're not an organizer or an activist, you want to stay behind, there are so many things you can do behind the scenes that are just as important.
You can lick the envelopes, put the stamp on people.
Exactly.
Cha-ching.
Exactly. Even if the families belong together, Shauna, one of the girls, was downstairs watching the kids, drawing with them, and all kinds of things. Those are all equally important roles.
So take a couple minutes to talk about the Women's March and what was that about?
The Women's March was started right after the Trump inauguration because, we felt that a lot of our rights were in danger. So that started the march. As we continue with this administration, we do see that vulnerable populations, not just women, and we include other populations, that are. So we march to stick together to say, like, this is important to us. So you can see us, you can hear us. This is important. These are our rights. We're not going to back down. To me, that's what the Women's March was, and that's why it was an important event for me.
Cool beans. So I just want to give a shout out. So there's a Unity March in New Bedford, September 8th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can go down and march. Again, there's only a little bit of information on Facebook, but it's actually a Facebook event. So if you go on Facebook and check events in the community section or all the events, it'll show there. So September 8th, Unity March downtown. 11 to 1. So I want to kind of give them a shout out for that. I know Mona was like, write it down, quick, Mona. Do you guys know anything more about it than what was on Facebook by chance?
Excuse me, what was, I didn't hear
The
that.
Unity March, do you know anything more about it?
I know as much as you do. I know Edwin Cartagena is the person who organizes that. That's about all I know. And also giving props to Marcy because she organized the No Place for Hate rally, and that I wasn't part of the commission for that, and that was an amazing event. I just went as a person who showed up at that point.
Well,
that was an amazing event.
It was the HRC, and it was a peace rally, and it went over really well. Folks came with amazing messages in the signage, and we had representation from all aspects of the community, the Muslim, the Jewish,
the
Hispanic,
Republican,
immigrant.
the Democrat.
Yes, we had Republicans and Democrats, and it was just, I don't think we have enough events where the whole community comes together in a positive way. You talked earlier about, you can look at any group and you can divide them into subgroups.
Yep.
But I think that we need to focus on our common humanity and the things that we all want. We all want peace. We all want safety in our community. Those are issues. We all want jobs. We all want respect. Those are common values that we all share collectively and want. And I think that as long as, whatever it is that we're advocating for, as long as we include those qualities within it, I think that we, will be more successful in our endeavors. I also want to address, someone said earlier, what kind of things can we do? I think that we're in a time where we cannot be silent any longer. I think that when people, if there's something that's going on in the community where, some groups are under attack, you have to share that. You have to let folks know. And you'll see people band together around that human right violation, that civil right violation. So I think that is so important. Sometimes people suffer silently and no one knows. No one is aware.
Can I add to that? Because there was a local musician who was outed as you went through his Facebook and it was like the N-word and, it was horrific.
Yeah.
And a lot of people knew that this person was this way, but he was a very popular person in the community and, so they let this behavior slide and people felt like he held a higher role in the community. And a state police officer who was friends with this person and then saw that shared some of the posts that were super...
I actually shared that because I was mortified.
So I think sometimes it takes people in those positions to say, I don't agree with this, because I spoke with a police officer also who was like, I don't know, it's kind of weird to share it because what if it causes, fights or whatever. It's like, that's not on you. But when you as a police officer say, I will never stand with this in my community. Like, your job is to protect the community, and this person could cause a problem in the community in which you vow to protect. And he did end up sharing it, and I was so happy, because there was a time where I definitely felt like defenseless and like, you know, real low, and like I could, so to have someone of that caliber kind of say, I would protect you, you know, should this person, like, this person is wrong, and I will, you are right, and I'll protect your side. It's so important for people of high caliber in the community to stand up and show where they stand.
See, I'm very, well, obviously I'm white, so I'm very fortunate to be white in growing up where we're at, but I'm confident in our police department. I haven't had issues being LGBTQ, and again, we talked about 2 prides ago, especially after the Pulse attack that happened, I think it happened after our Pride 2 years ago. They were at our local bar on the corner, just making sure we were okay. We had the after party at the bar after we had our Pride Day, and I was like, wow, and I was like, kudos, kudos, kudos.
Our police department is great. You know, Chief Cordero has shown up at some of our events, not even, you know, working, just in street clothes, just showing up, making sure everything's okay. The New Bedford Police Department, I don't have enough good things to say about them. They're a lot of other police departments around the country could learn a lot from them.
Now, I'd like to ask a question that's a little bit hard. When we were working for marriage equality, there were a lot of people that said, it's too soon, too fast. And a friend of mine who worked on Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Commission said, you know what, I've heard that my entire life. So what do you say to people who say, you know what, I agree with you, but this is too soon, too fast?
You know, my first response to that is, what's too soon and too fast? That's my initial reaction to that. What are you talking about? What's too soon and too fast? Okay? We are all individuals with the alienable right to pursue happiness on the same plane, on the same level, on the same playing field. So in that, having said that, I would have to, as I said, I would have to beg the question, what are you talking about? Be specific. Tell me what you think is too soon, too fast.
Because it doesn't affect you personally, so maybe, you know, maybe at some point I'll get to it, but not today.
Yeah,
It's see that, and that's the problem, because it does affect
Oh, of course it does. Of course it does.
Well, you know what, Tracy?
Yeah.
It affects all of us personally, because we're all part of this bigger group called the human race.
Yeah.
So it affects all of us. What affects my brother affects me also indirectly. And the sooner we recognize that, the better off not just our community, but the better off the whole human race will be.
Okay.
And then maybe at that point, people like 45 won't get elected. So, you know, this is the thing, because people will begin to not just to listen what people say, okay, but to watch what they do. So when someone is saying something on this hand, and now when he's in office and is doing something totally different, that should be the first clue that you just can't listen to what everybody says. You need to investigate yourself so that you can be informed as to what their real agenda is and who they really are, which is also important.
I think sometimes it can be hard too. Like, I know especially you held office, you know, even just running for office, you often find people are not who they say that they are. And it upsets me because I feel like people should have a right to know who they're voting for. Like, and it's a game, obviously. And I didn't know this because I went in very.
I think one of the things that I don't think it's, first of all, I don't think it's a game.
Well, some people do.
Right. Well,
right. The real established.
I don't think it's just about holding office, because I think the people who have that focus, life is a game, and no matter what they're doing,
they're
playing the same game, no matter whether they're a politician or whether they're not. That's just who they are. One of the things that I did learn, and I was in office, I had never been involved in politics when I first got there. Marcy, you remember. and I'm going to tell you, one of the things that I learned very, very quickly is it wasn't me that they were attacking. My goodness gracious, they didn't even know me.
They were just playing the game.
Okay, I mean, no,
Oh, okay.
because they were real. They were angry. They were frustrated. They were just, they desperate.
They're not yelling at you, they're yelling at the issue.
What, the position?
The position.
And basically the position, but what I'm saying is, you can't, when you're serving in a political front, or in anything else that you endeavor to do, and you're the lead, you have to understand, one of the things is that it is not you that they are attacking.
Yeah.
No matter who was in that seat, would be getting the same response from the people out there. Because, as I said, people are frustrated, they're angry, and they want things done yesterday. And when you, and as you said a little while ago, Andy, they just keep putting it on the back burner. This is how they look at a lot of politics is, well, they've been working all this for years and it hasn't come to fruition yet, and I thought they were taking that vote last week or whatever. So
Yeah.
people are frustrated, and you can't blame them.
Right.
But the people who serve, they are who they are, whether they're in office or not.
Right, they are, and that's why there's definitely a good, because sometimes you see things and it's just like, you know, people have a right to know when you're voting what you really think, what you really believe, and you know, a lot of times people don't do that. But going back to, you know, having to be there and listen to people, at our last meeting, you know, it got very tense and there were people yelling, and they weren't yelling at the person, but they were yelling at the issue. Again, this was the barbecue, but
Right.
I loved it because, you know, I think people thought it would go to the back burner. People were right there. It was like democracy in action. I loved it so much. They were like, no, I'm not going to take this. This is not going to stand. And they came right in. And, you know, I really hope that if people see this, they know that the HRC is there. And this is what we're there for.
Is this on public access TV or anything? Like some of the
No,
towns
it's
do?
not filmed. Mm-mm.
No.
And let's remind people how important voting.
Oh, voting is
absolutely.
everything. Even if you don't go to one event, even if you never want to be an activist, voting, you know, it's number one important.
I don't think enough of our youth understand, you know, the consequences if they don't vote. I mean,
I
what
would
happened?
say though, they're in an interesting time.
Absolutely.
So I think they may know, you know,
You'll
I
be-
grew up in the Clinton
you might be
era, so I
surprised.
think my generation didn't really realize how important it is, but I think this generation kind of has a grasp.
From
Millennials
what
are
happened down in Florida
organizing.
with the guns and the kids going around the country right now.
So it's a silent
Yeah.
majority, and they're not that
Yeah.
silent.
Yeah.
We need them.
They're very
I
vocal.
know you have a thought. I can see it, no?
Oh, just the Parkland students, yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they're the ones coming up, the
I
high school
wish they'd come
students.
our way. If you guys know anybody that they want to come on our show, just hit me up. I think they're going to be a great guest to have. During the research, we were talking offline, guys, that I was kind of mortified or just astonished that this used to happen. There used to be a traveling white-black guidebook for people of color to take with them. It's kind of like a AAA book of where not to go when you were black back in the, I'm going to say the dates, 1947, 1956 editions. And there's actually a book that would tell people where not to go, or where you shouldn't go because of things that are going to happen to you. And I was just kind of mortified. I actually have it. It's actually called the Green Book. And for me, when someone says a Green Book, was it those stamps when we were kids, the S and H stamps? So when it said Green Book, I'm like, oh, that's not the Green Book, you know?
Can I
Yeah.
just say that there was a video, and it was a year or two ago, and it was a black family, and it was a church, and they made an informative video of how to act if you got pulled over, you know, and this is in the South. And I cried so much because it's just like that. It's like, keep your hands down, do this, do that, and hopefully, like, make sure you get home to your mother alive. And oh my gosh, it hit me. So that's 1947.
Yeah.
We're in 2018, and
We actually, the Human Relations Commission, a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we went to the alternative schools and we did a forum. And that was part of what we did. We did some role playing with young students
Oh, great.
on how you should react the right and wrong way if you were stopped by the police. So that is something that still is relevant today, and it's important for young people to know that. We've seen across the country that, you know, we've seen some young people running, and not always because they were guilty, sometimes just it's a reaction out of fear. But it's really important for young people to know how to diffuse those situations if they're in them. So I do recall, as a youngster, you know, parents, and particularly myself, I'm a mother of two, African-American male, black male men. And that's something that I've always drilled in them. You know, if you're ever stopped by a police officer, you know, be compliant. I think many mothers of color do have those conversations, you know, with their children. And it doesn't matter if you're college educated or, you know, if you're not. There's always that fear with black parents that you could be stopped by a police officer that's not a good officer, and that's real. That's very
And especially,
real.
I mean, our kids are living around here thinking they're okay, and they go to college somewhere else. And I think we just need to continue that training, or that, you know, I guess
Absolutely.
it's training over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
I'm just going, AJ, does anybody else have something to say? Just real quick,
Mr. Kingman said hi.
Who?
Alex Kingman?
Alex Hayes, one of our youth.
Oh, hey.
Shout out.
You wondered where the youth are.
Derek Strong. Not sure what that's about.
Derek Strong.
What did he say?
Derek Strong?
What did he say?
Okay.
Oh, just that man.
Usually Mariah's over there, but Mariah couldn't make it today, and I don't like to keep it on the hook and read
Right.
and look at the same time. Is that about it?
I was hoping for some interesting things to open some dialogue because I love open dialogue.
Oh, yeah, and again, you know, so we know how to get a hold of you, you want to say your phone number again, and
508-979-1464.
and how do they get a hold of you if somebody wants to ask some questions about the Women's March and what you do in the community?
You can email me at bsantos797@gmail. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Beth Santos-Photo, F-A-U-T-E-U-X. So you can find me there often. And, or you can shoot me a text at 508-371-0279. Just don't call, I will not answer.
And I don't know
Throw a
if
text.
anybody wants
I
to
will
get a
always
hold of
answer.
Andy, you want to give any information, your work number, or just?
Yeah, Andy, well, it's silverbrook.farm@comcast.net.
And Mona and I have known each other for,
They can get a hold of
yeah, they can
you
get,
through
you got it. So Traci, T-R-A-C-I, at, oh God, help me, what am I? At SCLGBTQnetwork.org, and he's gonna put that up. So next week's show, we're very fortunate to work in our community, Seven Hills Behavioral Health, and we actually have Timothy Ray Brown. He's gonna be coming here, and he supposedly is the only person cured of HIV. He is known as a Berlin patient, so you guys can do the research. As soon as you put that up, a whole bunch of dialogue comes up.
It's fascinating.
It's gonna be
That is
yeah.
fascinating.
So he's gonna be on our show Tuesday. And Thursday, he's gonna be at the, I believe, the Episcopal Church. There's gonna be a meet and greet. He's gonna talk for an hour. And they're gonna
Grace
have a reception
Episcopal?
after. Yep. I think it's a Grace Episcopal. God help me. I forget which one
On
it is now.
county, is that?
Yeah, but yeah, so we're gonna talk about it Tuesday, and if you guys wanted to go, you have to let them know ahead of time, so they put you on the guest list, so on the
Okay.
guest list is pretty good.
Hey,
Yeah, that's how I
hey,
roll.
hello, VIP.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, see you next week. Take care. Bye now.